Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My Karen landlord is suing me for her kids' medical bills. After that, am I the jerk for asking hubby to stay with his parents while he's unemployed? And after that, give up on my career or move out? Okay. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to sue anyone for her kids' medical bills. How can I do that if you won't give me any kids, Reddit boy? So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My Karen landlord is suing me for her kids' medical bills. So I'm living in a basement suite that has a laundry room next to it. The laundry room is shared by myself and the family I'm renting from as part of the rental agreement. One day a week, the family will unlock the door in the laundry room that leads to my suite, and thus I have access to the room for the day. I put my clothes in the machine and shut the door to the suite so that I don't hear all the ruckus. There are stairs in the laundry room that lead up to the rest of the house, so I assume that's how they got access to the laundry room. I had my clothes drying in the laundry room. All of a sudden, I hear yelling from the wife, and next thing I know, the ambulance has arrived. I soon learned that, 1, apparently their kid, who's currently 4, had actually opened the dryer and got in. 2, their dryer was faulty. It doesn't shut off when you open the door. Yeah. This was last week, and he turned out to be relatively fine. But now the landlord and landlady want me to reimburse the ambulance bill and medical bill. They have no insurance, totaling $8,477, because it was my laundry that he climbed into. Really? I didn't think I was responsible because, 1, I'm not in charge of watching their kid. I'm paying an insane amount of rent to begin with. I didn't agree to babysit anyone in addition. And 2, it's their laundry machine that is apparently faulty. But they insist, and I'm not sure. I went to a forum that was oriented towards landlords to see if I was really reasonable. I was asked if the family ever raised rent. I've been living there for 1 year and 4 months, so no, I admit they did not raise rent when the lease was renewed after the first year. But still, they didn't do it for charity. I pay my rent on time every time and don't cause a problem. I assume them not collecting a little extra is still better than the risk of trying to find a tenant that isn't trouble, etc. At least that was their thinking. Anyways, I'm not planning to stay after the lease ends. I was told then by the landlords that I should be grateful that they did not raise rent and should pay up to be morally fair. Am I the jerk? Edit. Thanks for all the advice. I will discuss this with a lawyer, but I don't think they will try to pursue this outside of guilt-tripping me, as I think they know that they really don't have a case. To clear up a few things. 1. Yes, I do laundry once a week. I'm a single person, and a few loads for 1 day of the week is enough for me. To be fair to the land people, they have expressed letting them know if I need an extra day or whatever to do laundry. They seem chill about that part. I don't know. I've never taken them up on that offer. 2. I don't know how he got in. The door doesn't take much effort to open. I don't know, nor is it my responsibility to know. 3. Yes, that really was the majority of the response on the landlord forum. I didn't go into details because I didn't need to. I only stated what the verdict came out to be, that I should pony up to be fair. Yes, there were comments and discussion on the stupidity of the situation. There was some sympathy towards me, but the majority verdict in the echo chamber was, as to whether I should pay, be grateful they didn't raise rent and pay up or risk being a leech, or to just be nice because dealing with tenants isn't easy. Mind you, I've never caused trouble for them to begin with, aside from having the audacity of drying my clothes in the 21st century in a machine someone can climb into, I guess. 4. I didn't question the medical bill as I'm a graduate student on a long-term exchange program from Canada. I've never paid a medical bill in my life and just accepted the fact that it would be expensive. Not the jerk. You need legal advice now. Because you aren't responsible, but they're trying to fleece you, and they should contact their homeowner's insurance. It can cover this stuff sometimes. Not the jerk. Both your points are completely valid. They are responsible for watching their 4-year-old and fixing any faulty appliances. It's not like they asked you not to use it until it was fixed. You could also probably get a free 30-minute consult with a lawyer just to make sure they don't have a case against you. But I'd start looking for somewhere else to live in case they get petty about it all. Well, what do you think? Should OP pay the medical bills or not? Please let us know. Absolutely not. It wasn't their fault. Am I the jerk for asking hubby to stay with his parents while he's unemployed? My husband, 32, and I, 30, have been married for just over a year now, and things couldn't be rockier. I have a good job and make a decent amount of money, whereas my husband made not as much as me. Due to this, and the fact he was still living with his parents when we got married, we decided he would move in with me and I would continue to pay the rent and bills as long as he put money towards other things we may need as a couple. My name is the only one on the lease. However, once we got married, he started to cut down on his work hours without saying anything first. He gave the explanation that I made plenty of money for the both of us, so he could just work part-time and do the work around the house while I was the main breadwinner. I was fine with this, a little upset that he had just assumed this would be okay, but I didn't say anything as this felt fair. He did do some work around the house initially, but spent the majority of his time going out to the bar, playing video games, etc., to the point where I was the one both working and doing the cooking, cleaning, and other household chores. My husband told me he was laid off 2 months ago for reasons out of his control. I assumed in this time that he would begin job hunting, and I began to pay for everything. While I do earn a decent amount of money, it's not to the point where I can pay for rent, bills, groceries, insurance, contribute to emergency savings, and finance the lifestyle my husband had started indulging in. I began paying for his nights out, subbing him money for trips to look for work, etc., all while I was under the assumption he would be searching for a new job, at least to finance his hobbies. About a week ago, I asked him how the job hunt was going, and he told me that he didn't feel like it was worth it. He said to me that he was comfortable with what he had now, and I wasn't happy to say the least. I confronted him about how I was doing everything to finance and take care of our household while he sat around and played video games. I was being a jerk here, I'll admit. And during this argument, he let slip that he had actually quit and never looked for another job. I was furious that he had lied to me and told him I didn't want him in my home right now. Fast forward to now. My in-laws are understanding to an extent, but are calling me a jerk for not wanting him to come back home until he gets a job. I've seen my husband in this time, but never in our home, always out somewhere. I no longer pay for everything, and his attitude towards me is making me question our entire relationship. He's calling me a jerk for doing this to him, and I'm beginning to think he's right. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Good grief, the amount of red flags here is ridiculous. 1. He cut down his hours without discussing it. 2. He quit his job and lied about it. 3. He spends his time partying with his buddies and having you pay the bill. 4. He lied about job searching. 5. He won't help keep up the household. Sounds like only seeing him in passing is best. Don't let him back into your house unless you just want a mooch, lazy roommate that won't pay rent. His living with mommy and daddy up until he moved in with OP. In my opinion, him not having the experiences of living alone or with roommates more or less made him think of OP as his next mommy. ETA. I know there are a million reasons why someone would still be living at home, but in this case, with all the other red flags waving, it says a lot about Hubs. The only reason his parents are upset with OP is because they finally got him out of their house and now he's back. OP should take this as a sign and tell him to stay there. Not the jerk. Your husband is totally taking advantage of you. He didn't give you any choice in any of this. He just made decisions and forced you to go along with them. Divorce him. He's literally dead weight and you're better off without him. Everyone sucks here. I know I'll get downvoted for this, but I've seen stories like this where the roles are reversed and you all respond completely differently. When the wife is the one who is lazy and entitled, you all just make excuses for her and tell the husband he needs to do better. Is she depressed? Have you been helping enough around the house? Have you been telling her that she's beautiful? Imagine a man saying he wants his wife to go live with her parents because he's tired of paying the bills himself. You all would be flipping out on him so hard. Edit. The guy is obviously a loser, which is why I said everyone sucks here. My point was how you idiots on Reddit will often side with the OP simply due to her being a woman. One example, several of you here are insulting this man for living with his parents until he got married and moved in with his wife. If the woman had lived with her parents until she got married, you would all be defending her, saying how expensive it is to move out in this economy. I'm just calling you people out on your BS. Mental health issues are much more common in young males than females these days, and it's mostly because of how we're looked down upon by people like you. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for feeling this way about her husband or not? Please let us know.
Wow, Reddit boy, this guy sounds almost as useless as you are.
Give up on my career or move out? Okay. This happened recently, and right now things have calmed down, so it feels right to post this here. So about 2 weeks ago, my best friend, who's 22, had called me, I'm 23, asking if he could be my roommate if I find a place. I was looking for a place to stay while going to college. I told him, sure, but why? But he said he'll tell me later. We both meet up a few days later and drive about an hour away from our hometown to move into the place. We spent a few hours setting everything up and unpacking, yet he never said anything about why he wanted to move in with me so suddenly. After we were done, he sat down and explained the situation at home. He and his parents had been at each other's throats recently because he had landed a remote job after our summer internship, and they thought he was wasting his life playing on a computer. His parents have always done factory and physical labor jobs and look down on people who work from their computers because they don't know what real work is. Side note, his dad actually does his auto shop's taxes and other functions from his office and rarely does any mechanic work himself, so it's kinda hypocritical. He continues to tell me that the day before he called and asked me, they had a huge blow-up that resulted in his parents giving him the ultimatum of, get a real job or get out. And he says he just went to his room and started packing. I'm guessing even if I had said no, he was moving out regardless. That brings us to him telling the story to me. When he was done, he looked so relieved. I believe the reason he kept so quiet during the move was because he was holding it in and trying not to go crazy. After that, we both spent the rest of the day hanging out to try and keep his mind off of things. Fast forward 3 days later. His parents call him asking why his stuff is not in his room. They were gone for a few days to give him time to come to his senses, thinking he'd give up his roughly 4 years of college and internships to get a job as a mechanic starting from scratch. There's nothing wrong with mechanics or people who work labor jobs, but he's been working his butt off these last few years only for them to basically tell him to drop all of that and get a job they want him to get. I leave the apartment to give him and them some privacy and take a quick walk. When I get back, 20 minutes later, he's got a wide smile on his face, and he tells me the long and short of it. He apparently left a few details out before, and this time told me the whole story. Roughly around the time we started working at that paid internship, his parents had been charging him rent, $350 every month, as motivation for him to get a real job, and the blowout they had was about him being able to pay it. Despite not having a real job they had picked out, they said he needed to grow up, get real work experience, and even went as far as accusing him of stealing to get the money. So he had had enough and packed up while they were gone. The phone call they had was him basically telling them he can't go back home because he's not going to change his major, current job, or career path, so he was staying at the apartment with me. I asked him if he's going to be okay. He assured me that he already explained everything to his other relatives and that they're going to try and talk to his family to see if they can convince them to understand why he wants this job and how computer work is still work. This is going to be our last 2 semesters and the tuition is already paid off, so we're good at the moment, as the only thing we have to worry about is the rent, which we can both cover pretty well. Honestly, I was going to ask him to split this apartment with me regardless because I found a good apartment complex that had a shuttle to our college and had 2 rooms open, but I'm still glad I could help him. He says he'll eventually start talking to his parents again, but I don't think that'll happen until after they come to their senses, or else they might lose their only son. Reminds me of a friend of mine. Her father-in-law worked his entire life working in a steel mill. He kept asking his son, my friend's husband, when he was going to stop going to school and get a real job. At this point, his son was a full professor at a large university. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my boyfriend move in with me because it would most likely mean I would have to pay 20 times more in rent? I live in a flat in a building owned by my ex's parents. Because they like me, and my ex asked them to, they only charge me around 5% of the price it would actually cost me to rent it from them. I've been dating my boyfriend for almost 2 years, and he asked to move in with me after he found out my ex moved back here to London and was living in the same building as me. While I would love to live with him, I also know it would mean we would need to pay the full rent amount, which is just not affordable for me, even with him paying half. I don't want to move to another location because this flat is amazing and I doubt I'll ever be able to live here again, so I want to enjoy it until I can't anymore. When I told him no, my boyfriend got super angry at me because he thinks I'm lying about the rent going up if he moves in. And also, he told me I couldn't keep leeching from my ex's family my whole life when I wouldn't change my mind. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. This man is showing you so many red flags. He wants to move in with you because he's jealous and doesn't trust you. And when you turn him down, he becomes angry and calls you a liar. He's entitled and controlling. Please rethink your relationship with this guy. Really, I think his concerns are justified, especially with the ex living in the same building. If the ex is still single and not married, I'd be worried the landlords are trying to get them back together. Not the jerk. Definitely getting jealous, controlling vibes from your boyfriend though. I wouldn't have him move in, even if the rent stayed the same. Not the jerk. Don't let this guy force you out of a place that you love just because he's jealous of your ex. It does sound like a once-in-a-lifetime type of deal, and you're happy there. I think if you were getting married, it would be reasonable to move or pay the full rent, but since the relationship doesn't seem that far along, it would likely be a mistake. What if you moved or were obligated to pay full rent and then the two of you broke up? Everyone sucks here. You for stringing along your ex and his family for financial gain, and his parents, your landlords, for enabling their son's frankly creepy behavior. Your boyfriend probably has legit concerns about what all this means, especially since your ex just happens to also live in that building. I mean, seriously? I live in the same building as my ex, and he's giving me a huge break on my rent. Wouldn't raise any red flags if you were in his shoes? OP, I'm not stringing my ex along. We're friends. I don't know how being friends with someone is a red flag. Friends don't tell their parents to miss out on 95% of the money on the condition that you stay single and nobody else lives there with you. OP, he never said I had to stay single, and he knows I have a boyfriend. They met each other at his housewarming party, so that has nothing to do with how much rent I pay. Then why would your rent suddenly spike up to the normal price? OP, because they're doing me a huge favor by letting me pay the reduced rent. My boyfriend is a stranger to them, so they're obviously not going to want to do the same favor for him, so it makes logical sense that the rent would go back to the normal price. It sounds like your boyfriend just isn't important enough to you for you to even see if him moving in would be allowed. It's cool for you to not want him to live with you, but it sounds like you're using this as an excuse because you haven't even spoken with your ex's parents about whether they would be okay with your boyfriend of 2 years moving in with you. They know you have a boyfriend, right? They're doing you a favor by letting you live there at that rate, but it would still be doing you a favor to allow your boyfriend to join you, even though it benefits him as well. Unless you at least see what their response would be, you're the jerk. Refusing to even bring this subject up is what makes you the jerk. Because if it's really you don't want him living with you, then you need to be honest with him about that. Not the jerk. Major red flags on your boyfriend's part. He sounds so controlling, manipulative, and exhausting, and honestly, just a major drama prince crybaby. I stay friends with all of my exes. That doesn't mean I'm still hooking up with all of them. If a new guy has a problem with me hanging out with my exes, I know it won't work out long term, so that usually results in my cheating on him, since he's not worth my time. Don't you ever try to tell me what to do. Real men don't try to control you and tell you what to do. Real men are okay with you doing whatever you want, even if that is hooking up with your exes, because secure dudes understand that they don't own you and this isn't the 50s anymore. The way I see it, we had to do everything for generations, so now it's our time to kick some tail, and maybe cheat on the boyfriend every now and then, especially if he's a drama prince. Don't judge me, you don't know what I've been through.
Well, gee, don't you sound pleasant.
Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know. Fired after my boss went through my purse. I've been working front of house at this restaurant for almost a year. Lately, I had been wanting to quit due to a toxic atmosphere. Today I was working, and I was going to be working tonight by myself because we are understaffed and I am one of 2 employees who can close by myself. I had grabbed a job application to another job, had it filled out, and was going to hand it in this morning, but I was running late, so I just shoved it in my purse to hand in tomorrow. Anyways, I was just making boxes with my coworkers, and my boss was in the office doing something. He comes out and asks to speak to me. I go into the office and he says, "What's the job application in your purse?" I looked over to my purse, and the little section where it has you fill out your references was poking out of my bag. I said, "It's for name of the other restaurant." He asked me why, and I said, "Because I feel like you guys treat me like crap." And he said, "Okay, if you feel like that, go ahead and clock out and go home." And I was fired. Feeling very violated and angry, this is my personal property. Plus, what if I had just wanted to work 2 jobs? Is that even legal? Is there anything I can do? He has cameras, but they're only accessible on his phone and app. I had never been written up here before. I was spoken to a few times because they were trying to treat me like a manager without the proper compensation or title, and once was spoken to about my socks being the wrong color, but that's it. This is just so unfair. Any advice is appreciated. Definitely file for unemployment. At the very least, you might get a few weeks of income while you look for another job, and your boss's unemployment insurance might go up. And if your boss isn't the owner, he might have to answer to them about it. Board-certified labor lawyer here. Unfortunately, if you're in the US, but not in Montana, the firing is perfectly legal. I will say, as I said in another comment, that your boss is a real jerk though. If he physically went into your purse, that is an invasion of privacy. He has no right to go through your personal things, and honestly, there's no other way he could have seen the job application, right? Makes me wonder what he was looking for to begin with. Anyway, most law firms will offer a free consultation to see if you have a case. I would maybe look for something like wrongful termination because he fired you because he couldn't handle that you would want to go somewhere else, not because you couldn't perform your job or had any history of not performing your job. The invasion of privacy might just argue your case. Good luck. Do people not understand that servers have to tip out staff? I have to pay to serve you, so if you don't tip, I actually lose money. At the restaurant I work at, gratuity is not included. And like most restaurants, servers at my restaurant have to tip out the greeters, bussers, and service bartender. The average check where I work is around $200, and I have to tip out 4% of food sales. So if your bill is $200, then I have to pay $8 to serve you. If you do not tip me, I lose money serving you. I have to tip out 4% regardless of what you tip me. Tonight I got stiffed on 2 checks. One was $300. It happens. We get a lot of international guests who don't always understand tipping culture, but even some locals will only tip like $15 on a check that big. It occurred to me tonight that maybe people don't know that servers have to tip out other staff, regardless of whether you leave a tip or not. Like, come on, if you can afford to spend $300 on dinner, you can at least give me enough to cover tip out. I know, tipping culture sucks, but this is the system we have for dining out in the US. This is how I eat and pay my bills. Please tip me. It doesn't have to be 18%. I'd just really appreciate it if I didn't have to go in the red to serve you, especially after you treated me like dirt for the last hour and a half. And please, if you are not going to tip me, then don't continue to take up my table for the next 2 hours after you've paid. I've already lost money serving you and am now unable to make more because you've stolen my table. My restaurant has very strict 3-table sections, and if I can't flip those tables, then I'm not going to make any money. I'm not exactly doing this for fun, you know. I've been in the service industry for 2 years now. Working in a restaurant takes a huge physical, mental, and emotional toll. Please don't make me lose money serving you. Please. I gave you the best service I could, and I would rather not lose money on the transaction. Can you imagine being bossed around for an hour and a half by people who act like it's life or death that they get their spicy mayo, only to find out that you have to pay money for that whole degrading experience? Do people not understand that servers have to tip out staff? Probably not. Except for the people who have worked in sit-down restaurants, I'd be surprised if more than 5% of the public is familiar with tip-outs. I have never worked in the restaurant industry, and I had no idea until reading this. Absolutely, people do not understand this. As someone who lurks here but never worked in the industry, tipping out was a concept I learned about in this sub. I'm not from the US, and I only recently learned that servers there don't make the minimum wage from this sub. Didn't have the slightest idea that they even have to tip out. Look, I know this is an unpopular opinion, but let me explain why I don't tip. If I like your food and restaurant, I have every right to come eat there. I am not, however, obligated to pay your employees out of my own pocket, and I will not be bullied into doing so. Do I have to pay the Walmart cashier for ringing up my groceries or the bagger who bags them? No, of course not. If I were expected to tip them because it's the right thing to do, I still wouldn't. I know your counter to that is, well, they make at least minimum wage. Servers don't. Well, I beg to differ. I've known plenty of waitresses over the years, and I assure you, they were bringing in at least $20 an hour, even at places like IHOP. Why are they able to make such good money? Because there will always be people who give in to the pressure to pay restaurant employees out of their own pockets. There has to be a point where we say enough is enough. I've seen posts on here where servers are mad that they only got a $50 tip. But then when you tell me, don't go out to eat if you can't afford to tip. Oh, trust me, I can afford to tip. I'm a millionaire and I pay my employees well, and I don't expect anyone else to. But my principles are why I will not pay your wages when you're not my employee. I will sometimes leave fake tips that have scripture on the other side, because let's face it, we all need Jesus at the end of the day, no matter who you are. Well, what about you? How much do you usually tip when you go out to eat? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for icing out my team member? I work in a corporate service firm. I don't wish to get more specific than that, but it's one where we do work with clients and it's task-based work with deadlines. I have a junior team member who I'll call Evans. She is a decent worker, still learning how to work in a professional environment and in this industry. She is big on work-life balance and never touches work outside of the work hours. Normally, this is more than fine. We don't care when you work as long as you are reachable and able to finish your tasks when we need them. Here's the issue though. We had a big client presentation. The day before this, I gave Evans a task to do with about 2.5 hours left in the day. The task, while only taking maybe 1 hour, was vital to part of the presentation, which the client specifically requested. Evans does not finish the task and leaves at 5 sharp. Most of us were staying back a bit later doing our own tasks for the presentation, but we took a look at it and saw Evans' work was not done. Here's about as much as I can disclose. Evans has been the go-to person for this set of data and topic, and other than a few others, she's the only one with the expertise to deal with it. Because of this, and the fact that I had bigger tasks to deal with, Evans had done a series of tasks regarding this over the past weeks, and she has the data needed to do this. Sorry if it's a bit hard to follow. Basically, she was the only one with the tools and expertise to do this specific task. While me and other members of the team had expertise, we didn't have the tools and data we needed. We realized this and are all scared because the presentation was in the morning of the next day, like first thing in the morning. We knew Evans would refuse to do the task after hours, even with overtime, so we just asked her to send us the tools, a 2-minute thing. I call her work mobile, no answer. One of us calls her personal number, after some texts. Evans picks up, starts chatting, but when we mentioned that we needed the data, she cut the call. We end up staying till 1 to recreate weeks worth of Evans' work to finally get the presentation right, also delaying our own tasks, so me, along with 2 others, stayed the full night to work on this, plus other tasks. Just to put things into context about how easy this task was, once we recreated the week's worth of work, it took me less than 1 hour to finish the task. Evans had 2.5 hours, and then she just refused to even send us the documents. After this, I spoke to her and explained why what she did hurt the overall team, and she didn't care. I admit, I should have planned better, but she just showed no remorse. Now, nobody really wants to give Evans any tasks anymore because we think if something becomes critical, we need someone reliable to be able to hold the keys to fix the issue. She's complaining about not getting more responsibility now. Am I the jerk? No, you're not the jerk. I can't believe she's complaining about not getting more responsibility when she blatantly, and quite stubbornly I might add, proved she is irresponsible and cannot be depended on. What on earth? Not the jerk. Evans can have her hard stop at 5, but she also needs to share her progress with the team so that they can have everything they need to pick up where she left off. If this post had gone, I assigned the task 2.5 hours before 5 p.m. At 5 p.m., Evans sent out the work she had completed thus far and all the data needed to do the rest and explained that she had a hard stop at 5 and needed to leave for the day. Then I would say Evans is not at fault and the assignment should have been handed out earlier. I believe a discussion is needed with Evans explaining that while the team respects her desire to only work the assigned hours, If she fails to meet a deadline, she needs to make sure her teammates are provided the data to complete any projects she fails to finish in time. For this event, the project was handed out too late. But in the future, she should also be aware that time management within her desired hours is her responsibility, and her coworkers are not there simply to pick up her slack. Controversial take here. You're the jerk, sort of. So Evans is the only one to have the tools and expertise to carry out a task. You said it was a 1-hour task, but it clearly took her over 2.5 hours. I am inclined to believe that either your estimation of the task is not adequate, or there were unforeseen issues that caused the task to take longer. Neither of these issues is the fault of Evans. I guess I'm not sure why you don't all have access to the tools. That's a management problem as well. And if I were Evans, I would not step in to solve management issues without management compensation. I think you, as a company, need to make sure that everyone who is responsible for a task has access to the tools to carry out that task. What if Evans was injured last night at 5 p.m.? As far as you are concerned, that may very well have been the case. Or maybe she had a family emergency. These are reasons the employer must make sure that the other team members can access the tools as well. The ease of the task is largely inconsequential to me, to be honest. Once the hours are done, that's it. Don't care if it's easy or hard. The fact that you all stayed till 1 a.m. to me is highly indicative of mismanagement, to be honest. Start earlier or set the expectations of your client more realistically. Or, the real solution in my opinion, don't have just one person with the expertise and tools on which the entire schedule rests. Fire Evans immediately if you have that authority. Not the jerk, not a team player hung up on you and didn't finish her task. Give her no important assignments and let her quit if that doesn't work for her. Evans sucks. Not the jerk, Evans sounds lazy and needs to be fired for not being a team player. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Evans? Please let us know.
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.